Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and their professional teams struggle to find great capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as a deferred sales trust is the best way to exit highly appreciated assets tax deferred so you can create, preserve, and grow your wealth. I'm your co-host, Pierce New York, filling in for Brett Swarts. And each episode, I'm joined by some of the best wealth, business, real estate, and leadership individuals in the world to share ideas, deal stories, and inspirations. So together, we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. As always, we're streaming on expertcresecrets.com, Capital Gains Tax Solutions YouTube channel, and the Kingdom Luxury Realty Facebook channel. So go ahead and please rate, review, subscribe, like, comment, share, all that stuff for all the algorithms out there today. And I'm super excited about our next guest. He has actually been in the real estate tech world and data-driven analytics for a long time, almost 20 years now. And so he's gonna share with us some really valuable insights and his company, Knox Financial. So please welcome David Friedman. David, how you doing, man?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, man. Doing excellent. Always fun when you get to interview a freaking rock star. So
appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So David, let's start off. Tell us your story. How'd you get to where you are?
Sure. So, well, the founding story of Knox is a story that a lot of people have, which is, one day I got engaged and my wife and I realized we needed a bigger home. We had too much stuff to fit in her place or my place. And I realized when I went to put my 20s bachelor pad on the market that I was about to sell the best investment that I'd ever made. And that seemed like a crazy thing to do. Why would I sell an amazing investment just because I was moving? And I thought about holding on to the home as a long-term investment, but all the things I'd have to do seemed like a really big pain. I probably wanted to refi, pull some of the equity into cash. I was going to need a new insurance policy, find a tenant, needed to do maintenance on the property. Also, I needed to separate my expenses for tax reasons. I probably need to open a new bank account and get a new credit card. And I threw up my hands and I sold that home. Well, turns out 4 years later, the new owners sold it again, and they sold it for another $200,000 more than I sold it to them for. I saw this because Zillow sent me this evil email to let me know. And when I saw that, I went and told everybody what an idiot I was, what an investing mistake I had made. I'd missed out on $200,000 in potential profit. And I thought that was hilarious. I like to make fun of myself, I guess. And everybody said to me, Dave, the same thing happened to me. So you sort of had this this light bulb go off. Okay, everybody's missing out on this fantastic investment. So being a data guy, we went and looked at the data. And what we found was two things. Number one, for most people, when they move, the home they're moving out of is one of the best investment opportunities of their lifetime for cash flow appreciation and tax sheltering. The other thing we figured out was that the vast majority of American families have more than enough equity to cover the down payment on their next home and keep that old home as an investment. And so we set out to build the pieces that allow that transaction for millions of families, and that is Knox Financial.
Okay, so I'm in a similar boat, right? I just sold a house in Las Vegas about a year ago or whatever, right? Obviously, they got the Zillow email saying it went up in value, of course, another 60, 70, 80,000 from when I sold it a year ago. That maybe has changed in the last couple months or whatever. Who cares? The bottom line is that I feel it. So, all right. I really want to get into all this because this is super interesting. But before I do, what are one or two strengths or spiritual gifts that you have that have led you to be successful today?
That's a fantastic question. I think I'm not one who usually talks about myself in these terms. A strength that I have is I've spent a lot of my career studying leadership and read a lot of books on the topic and learned by making a lot of mistakes. But the talent that I look to cultivate is how to be a great leader of people and attract great talent. And I think there's a lot of people who go to school or read books to learn about management, and that's an important skill set. But leadership is sort of the next order of magnitude. And that was a two-part question. That's the skill set. And then what was the other part?
It's just the skill that or gift that has led you to be successful. The one thing that you've leveraged more than
I think the other gift, and this is not really a skill, it's more of a gift. I came from a family where, I once said to my grandmother that I'd gotten an A on a math test. And she didn't tell me good job. She told me, of course you did. You're one of this family. So we was sort of like it wasn't like you must do well. It was like ingrained in the family that achievement and doing something with your life was just what we do as a family. And that I think is that is a true gift.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's dive into this. So you got leadership skills and you got super high math grades. So so we're on here. So let's bring this into the analytics. So what does your platform do?
Sure. So if you're moving, we make it incredibly easy to keep the home you're moving out of as an investment property and still buy your next home. So to do that, we've brought a bunch of pieces together. First of all, financing. So in order to qualify for the mortgage on your next home, you need a few things. First of all, you need a down payment. So we've created a financing product that allows you to get access to the equity in your home for that down payment. We turn the equity into cash. You can do that either with a conventional HELOC or what we call a keep loan. So HELOCs are great, but if you're moving out, you don't qualify for a HELOC. If you've already moved out, you don't qualify for a HELOC on that property. We've created what we call a keep loan that gets you access to that equity for the down payment or for make-ready work or for what have you. Your home, the equity in your home is not trapped once you moved out. The next thing is to qualify for that next mortgage. You often need a lease in hand in order to qualify for the mortgage. So the bank, when they're looking at your income versus your debt payments, your debt to income ratio, they're going to say, okay, can you support both the mortgage on the home you want to buy and the mortgage you already have on your old home? And they're going to say, how much money does the household make? And then if you have a lease already in hand on the home you're moving out of, that sort of acts like, I'm using air quotes here, as like you have more income than just your W-2. So Knox has created a master sublease product to make that qualification easier. And then we make the rest of this transaction simple. We find you the right insurance, your homeowner's insurance on your old, your homeowner's insurance doesn't apply anymore. You need a landlord insurance policy, what's known as a DP3 policy. We place a tenant. We take over collecting rent and paying maintenance expenses, et cetera. And you step back and you become a passive owner of the home you used to live in, and you move into your new home, and you've got both the investment and the primary residence, and you've got one of the best investments available to most households.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this. So you basically provide financing for people moving out, and then you provide the master lease, which is the lease that they need in order that qualifies them to basically cover their expenses so that their DTI isn't totally screwed, so they can go out and buy the next home. And then you turn around and you sublease it, right, to a tenant.
Yep.
Take the arbitrage, I'm assuming. And then you go ahead and put all the other insurance brokers and whatnot in place so that it's just a seamless, symbiotic move from one thing to the next.
That's right. What each customer needs is very much based on their financial situation, their financial goals. We don't always put in a master sublease. Sometimes we just do a direct lease if you don't need the help qualifying for your mortgage. Sometimes we just do a purchase mortgage. They don't need to access any of their equity. They've saved up the down payment. They can make it work. But depending on what each customer needs, we bring these financial tools and services into an offer. We present it to you and you say, or here's a couple options. They say, that's what I want. We're off to the races.
So let me ask you this. Let's say I have an investment property that I'm renovating.
Yep.
Can I do a keep loan with you guys?
Absolutely. Yeah. To do a keep loan, you do have to put your home on our property, on our platform. So what we've done is created basically a HELOC for an investment property without going into too many details. Very hard loan to find. You'll find a few credit unions, local folks, they'll do it. We're doing it on large scale. And the reason we're able to do it is because we have intimate knowledge of each property on our platform, including the cash flow. So we know that when we collect rent, there's cash flow to pay that loan. So we've de-risked the loan, and therefore the market, the capital markets, will allow us to lend capital to landlords, to property investors.
Okay, so then how has your business model been affected by all of these interest rates and everything that's going on with inflation and the markets and
Yeah,
everything?
yeah. Home equity lines of credit generally float with prime. So when you've got that loan, your rates are higher today than they were a few weeks or months ago. We are like any other lending company. We have to, what we can quote to clients is what the market tells us. So whether it's a primary home purchase, an investment property purchase, a HELOC, all the borrowing costs have gone up.
Yeah. Okay. So how has that affected people's cash flow?
It's a good question. Not as much as you might think. So we generally find that our customers have these fantastic low rate primary mortgages. And one of the things that we think is going to affect wealth building strategies for a long time is that in the last 2 years, so many folks, including myself, fixed incredibly low rates on their primary mortgages, whether that's on their primary home or on their investment properties. However, as there's more and more equity being built over time, people are going to want to access that equity, and they're not going to want to give up this cheap mortgage paper they've already got. So the
Right.
second lien opportunity is a big one. Those second liens are almost always a lot smaller than the primary lien. So let's just say you've got a $400,000 mortgage on a property and a $100,000 line of credit. If that $100,000 line of credit was costing you $500 a month, and now it's costing you $700, yeah, you've got $200 a month in impact on your cash flow, but it's not like the full $500,000 of mortgage financing went up by that payment margin.
So do you guys have a specific margin that someone has to meet, or criteria someone has to meet, or a certain number of equity or amount of equity that someone has to meet in order to be eligible for your platform?
Well, you can put a home on our platform and not be using our lending services. So first of all, no, any home can come on our platform right today. We do have to meet lending standards set by the market. So and also different states have different requirements.
Okay.
So we can go all the way up to 90% loan to value on the loans you write, but for example, in Texas, we can't. They won't.
Right.
The state won't allow it. So then so there's the loan to value. There's basically three things that affect this: loan to value, credit. So the better your credit, the lower your rate. And then third is debt to income ratio. So we still do have to work within normal debt to income ratios when we qualify a borrower.
Okay. So let's say there's so does this work for like the Burr method type, like investment properties?
I'm not familiar with the Burr method.
Buy, rehab, rent,
Yeah.
refinance, repeat.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yes, I have heard of that an acronym. It absolutely works for those. There's a lot of folks who are doing. It's very normal when you buy an investment property to need to do some work on the property. So generally, if you're buying the property, you're going to come to an accepted offer price with the seller.
Right.
Based on that price, you're going to get a mortgage. Now, if you find that you need to access more of the equity in that property, a keep loan is a fantastic opportunity. So you've got that primary mortgage. Maybe you bought the home 6 months ago and you've got a nice low rate. We become a secondary lien. Now you've got two mortgages on the property, or a mortgage and a HELOC, and you use that HELOC to, say, fund make ready work, paint the house, replace the HVAC, what have you.
So do you guys, I guess at the end of the day, what I'm really getting at is like can someone who gets a loan for like a rehab loan, right? They get an 85% loan to cost, right? With 100% of rehab done. They buy an investment property. They're here to, their goal is to refinance it, pull capital out, and write cash flow from it. Can you guys cover the bridge loan and then become the first on the property, or do you guys only stick with the seconds?
We can. Actually, if we're the first loan, it's a lower rate. That's just, again, market rate. So you chop.
Yeah.
depending on the, what's going on, a point or two, a full couple hundred basis points sometimes if you go from secondary lien position to primary. I think what people are doing now is they're liking the second lien because they've got this cheap primary, and they're assuming someday in the future they can refi the whole thing, right? So 2 years ago, if you had a mortgage that was 3 or 4 years old, refining the whole thing made a lot of sense because the rate was going to be the same or lower and you'd access some capital. Today, there's a disincentive
For sure.
to refinance the primary mortgage. So something that's flexible, like a line of credit versus a full home equity loan, and a smaller amount of borrowing and it's going to be at a higher rate. Every loan's at a higher rate now. For a few years is like the go-to move in 2022 and probably 2023. And then hopefully someday in the future, rates are coming down for primaries, you refinance the whole thing at an even higher property value. And now you take that cash and roll it into the next one.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. All right. So you came from a different company, right? And then you built this solution, which I think is actually a really brilliant solution. Had I known about you guys a few months ago, I probably would have used it, because it really is like such a great way. I was trying to figure out how can I keep this.
Yeah.
What are the, when you guys do like a master lease, like how much arbitrage are you guys looking for in order for you guys to pull the trigger on that?
So we have two options. So the first one is we offer lease security. So what that means is you say, all right, we're going to go market it, find a tenant. Let's say that tenant's going to pay $3,000 a month. If you want to guarantee that entire lease, 100 cents on the dollar, we're going to give you 95 cents on the dollar. So we're keeping a 5% spread. Now we've priced in risk, right? So if that tenant disappears in the middle of the night, gets hit by a bus, loses their job, whatever, we're guaranteeing that you're not being paid by the tenant, you're being paid by Knox and our balance sheet. All right. Option two is even before finding a tenant, knowing what the market will really bear, we can give you a lease with a guaranteed start date to qualify for that mortgage, to close on your next mortgage, right? We do take a bigger discount on that because there's even more risk, because we might not even find a tenant by that date. So we might, there might be a month of vacancy there in some percentage of the lease up processes. So that is a bigger discount, and it's not a fixed number. We have an algorithm based on risk-based pricing. We basically give you an offer. We say, here is the lease rate that we will give you, and this helps you qualify for this mortgage you want to buy the home of the scale you're interested in.
Interesting. Okay. Awesome. So then before you guys started Knox, you had another company, and you guys took that pretty far and then sold it. Since it's a tax show, how was that whole acquisition process, and did you have a significant capital gains tax on that whole issue?
We can talk about that. I want to get into there's sort of three cap gains tax things we should talk about with Knox also, but happy to talk about my old company. So my old company was called Boston Logic when I found it. We then bought a company called Property Base and took that name and acquired a bunch of companies. As a startup founders become very familiar with a part of our tax code called QSBS, or Qualified Small Business Stock. I'm not sure how familiar you are with this. And I am not the world's biggest expert in it, but it basically was created to encourage early investment in startups. Okay. And it's very founder friendly and early investor friendly. So if a company has a valuation less than $50 million and you've invested in that company at least 5 years ago, and then there's a liquidity event, you have a capital gain, depending on what year that investment was made and a few other things, your capital gains could even be erased. So in my last company, because the year we did it and a bunch of other things, my capital gains tax bill was cut in half.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really good. So that was part of the strategy then coming out. It's like, hey, I'm gonna do this small business thing, or did you guys just stumble upon that?
So was part of the strategy with Knox when we started Boston Logic, I was not aware of QSBS. Somebody like educated me about it, and I kind of lucked out. I mean, the U.S. tax code really does favor. Does have some really nice treatment for startups and startup investors, and the world of venture capital uses those. Angel investors love those. They write it into term sheets that make sure we'll do what we have to do to preserve QSBS status, because those tax advantages are such a big part of their return profile. So it is really good for entrepreneurs when we, I mean, obviously we're investing or we're getting our equity on day zero, right? So usually the hold period is at least 5 years, and therefore when you have some kind of a liquidity event, you sell the company, you go public, something like that. Yeah, your taxes are greatly reduced. Now I do live in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts has a decent tax rate, so it's other taxes, but saved me a lot of money for sure.
So you mentioned Knox has some really good tax.
Yeah.
So let's talk about them.
Sure. So there's really three things that we talk about with our customers. So when you come to Knox and we first talk to you, we do sort of a consultation and understand what your financial goals are, and make sure that what the financial products and services we bring to bear for you meet your financial goals. A lot of our clients are retiring. They've lived in a home for a very long time, and they're staring down a few things at that point in life. First of all, they're looking to turn their assets, their equity, whether that's in their home or in other investment classes, into turn it into or change what vehicles it's in or how it's being leveraged to support their lifestyle. So you go through decades of your life where you have a W-2 or maybe a couple of W-2s in your household, and you live off of that and you save money, right? And then you get to a point in life when you say, okay, I'm now going to stop amassing wealth. I'm going to start living off of that wealth. That is this transition in retirement.
Yep.
Most of those folks find that most of their wealth is actually sitting in the home that they live in, and it's time to downsize or move. So first thing you're going to say is, what liabilities does moving have for me if I sell my home? There's some transactional costs, like real estate fees are going to be 5 or 6%. There's other transaction costs, but like lawyers. But then you look at the taxes. You say, okay, I might have a taxable gain in this home. So if you've been in that home and it has gone up in value, if you're married, more than $500,000, anything over that $500,000 is taxable. So in a lot of American cities and suburbs, if you bought a home in 1990 and now you're retiring and you raised your kids in it, you very well might have, $500,000, $1 million taxable gain. And so you might have 100 or 200 grand in tax liability right there.
Yep.
So the first opportunity to shelter taxes that Knox offers is when you don't sell, you can avoid that capital gains tax right now.
Yep.
The next thing a lot of people aren't aware of is once the property is an investment property instead of a residence, you can start depreciating the cost basis. So you might have a net profit on the property, and your cost basis is probably a fraction of the value, let's say half or a third, but you can depreciate that year over year, and therefore the tax adjusted return on the investment is higher. So you might be able to offset some or even all of the net income on the property. So it's even more attractive. And then the final thing we talk to people about is sometimes that retirement or when somebody's moving out of the home is pretty late in life. People stick around in their home when they empty nest, and they get to a point where like, okay, now it's really time to downsize, maybe move into a retirement community. They're in their 70s and 80s. And they're thinking about estate planning. And there's sort of there's like a trifecta you can play here. You can avoid the capital gains taxes when you sell. You can depreciate your cost basis maybe all the way down to zero while the home is an investment property. And then if your beneficiaries inherit that home, their cost basis is not what you paid or zero if you've depreciated it all. It's actually the current market value of the home. So you can actually skirt all of the capital gains taxes by creating generational wealth, turning your home into a generational wealth asset. And so we talk about that that triple play with our clients all the time.
I'm sure that's really effective.
Effective in what sense?
I don't want to say like sales, but like I'm sure that's a really good like
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
selling point.
look, if I was, I mean, I'm 42. If I was 30 or 40 years older than I am right now, and I said, hey, I just want to live off of the assets that I have. When you run the spreadsheet, there's some kind of ghastly math that people run. There's really two options that you have these days, which is number one, you can put your wealth into dividend bearing or coupon bearing assets, and the more safe you want to be, the lower that rate of return. Right. So things like annuities are virtually guaranteed. They're backed by the full faith and credit of whoever sells it to you, but you're pretty sure it's going to show up every month. You can go with bonds, T-bills, etc. Not wonderful rates of return. The other option is, hey, I keep my home in equities where I hope to have, like stocks and bonds, where I hope to have, pardon me, stocks and mutual funds, where I hope to have greater growth, maybe some dividends, but every year or every month I have to divest, I have to sell some, turn into cash, and that supports my lifestyle. Well, when you sell, you could have some capital gains taxes coming along, but also the ghastly math people run is, for how long can I afford to live?
Right.
And if I want to make that infinite, because I don't really know how long I'm going to live, what lifestyle sacrifices do I need to make? What is the fixed income I can put myself on? And therefore, what joys of life do I have to cut out? Can I not travel to see my grandchildren as often? Should I live in a smaller home because I hope to live as long as possible, and I want to be able to afford life. And the nice thing about property is it has this wonderful balance of cash flow and appreciation. And what we find with our clients who are a little bit older is they're not as hungry for leverage or mortgage debt as a younger person might be, because they want that net cash flow. But still, over time, property values in the cities where we operate trend up. So you've got this principal value growth with this net profit, this cash flow, and rents are going up really, really wonderfully lately. So you have this rent growth that's pacing closer to inflation or maybe even beating inflation, going up year over year, and then this equity value growth, and it makes for a wonderful investment in the latter years of life.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. So you guys are really kind of hammering down on these highly appreciating markets along with the cash flow and rent growth markets. So you're not in every market.
No, we're actually we focus on 5 cities right now. We're a relatively young startup, but our goal is to be in all the major metros in the U.S. over the next several years.
What cities are you guys in?
We're in 3 cities in Texas: Austin, Dallas, and Houston. We're in the greater Atlanta area and the greater Boston area.
Gotcha. So if someone has a property in Cleveland, they can't use
We are not working with properties in Cleveland right now, unfortunately. Our business has an awful lot of licensure involved in it. Real estate licensure, lending licensure, insurance, and we pick and choose how we roll out geographically.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea. I love the idea. Like, keep your assets, right? Stay out of the whole, tax game. I had the little thing up on the screen there, tax flow versus cash flow, right? Because that's a lot of it as well. How can you have an asset performing where, because at the end of the day, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And if you're giving a fat part of it to the government, hey, God willing, we need those people too, right? They need to do their part or whatever. I don't like to do that. I don't, I think I'm a better steward of the resources than they are.
If you look at the investment strategies of the wealthiest among us, an awful lot of what they're investing in has tax advantages built in.
Yeah.
So if you're a qualified investor and you're investing in a private real estate fund, they're sending you cash distributions from the portfolio and negative K1s, right? So they might say, hey, we're yielding 9, 10, 11%. Oh, but on a tax adjusted basis, you're making 12 or 15%, right? and the tax cuts passed through 3-4 years ago sort of made that even better. If you look at a lot of your, like, again, wealthy families, they have properties in them that are passed down from generation to generation.
Right.
The town that I live in, there's a shopping center right in the middle of it. It's been owned by the same family for 3 generations. The stores have come in and out. The management company might have changed a few times, but same family for generations. This is a tried and true wealth building strategy. And part of our goal is to democratize access to these preferred rates of returns. And a big part of that is tax sheltering.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. It's part of it. And I think that's why we kind of all come together on these things, is because, for example, like if someone were to try and sell that strip center, right? I mean, they're going to have to 1031 or something, or else they're going to pay massive tax. Because I mean, if they've had it for 3 generations, there's a good possibility that thing's either their basis is really low, maybe they bought it for, I don't know how big it is, but maybe they bought it for $1 million or something, right? And it's worth 15-20 million now, or something like that. I mean,
maybe the basis stepped up each time, each generation, the basis
maybe it did.
And how they structured it, right?
Maybe it did, and that's an awesome situation too, right? Like that's a benefit of the 1031 big time. I will kind of say, since you kind of already touched on it a little bit, the stepped up, right, starting in the estate planning, right? Like one of the challenges, right, when you get to those people that are in that 22 plus million, right, is not even dealing with the capital gains tax, though. It's the estate tax. Like how do you get around that $22 million? Like, after that, it's 40%. And that's crazy, And so, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we started our podcast, is to bring people like you, Dave, on the show and say, hey guys, look, like here's strategies that we can use in order to, defer the capital gains tax to generate more wealth, right? This is a fantastic strategy. Like I wish I would have known about it, because I totally would have utilized this. Although you're not in Las Vegas, so maybe I wouldn't have. But when you get there, right? Like these are the types of things that we're doing. Here we really have an awesome strategy called a Deferred Sales Trust, which allows you to exit an asset, real estate, a primary home or a commercial or a business or a stock or anything that's highly appreciated, domain, even if you've bought a domain and it's gone up, and so we can help you exit that, defer all the tax, pay off all the debt, and it's like kind agnostic, so you can reinvest it into whatever, and there's no time constraints like a 1031. And if you set it up correctly, you can actually move assets outside the taxable estate, so that you're receiving cash flow from it. And then when you find another deal, you can go in and purchase it or whatever. And it's a fantastic, estate planning solution, as well as a capital gains tax deferral solution. It's fantastic. And so, and that's kind of really like the whole point of this podcast, right? Is to get people on like you, get people on and have conversations like this and kick around ideas and strategies and share like what we know and so on and so forth. And if you guys want to be a part of that conversation, you can come to our mastermind every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Dave, I'll send you an invite for sure. So you can come and kick it around. And we get people like Dave who come on the show and like, guys, like, you could do a cash out refi. We'll set up this whole thing, this master lease agreement, right? We'll get your financing in place. We'll make sure that your homeowner's insurance is good to go and caught up to date. And then you can cash out, take some equity, go put a down payment. All right. We'll make sure you can get into it, and you're tax free. When you die, you get a stepped up in basis, like with your kids. Like, this phenomenal strategy, right? Like, others might be like, hey, like I got this $22 million problem. Good for you, right? Now let's solve it. Like, this is how you do it. So we have this group, this environment where we can bring everybody together, and that's every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. So if you guys want to learn more about the Deferred Sales Trust, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to do that. And David, where can people find you?
KnoxFinancial.com.
Knox Financial. That's KNOX. Knox Financial. Is that like Fort Knox? Is that where that's coming from?
You got it.
Nice. How'd you go from Massachusetts to Fort Knox?
You know, it's a funny story. I was driving along one morning and I heard this story on the radio and Fort Knox came up and I'm like, where does our nation keep its wealth? Fort Knox. So that became the name of the company.
I like it. I like it. That's good stuff. All right. So knoxfinancial.com, KNOXFINANCIAL.com. Look for David and sell a house. We're running out of time here. So I'm going to get you into the lightning round really quick because I think you'll have some really good answers to these questions. So you ready?
Ready.
All right. What's your favorite leadership quote?
Oh, my favorite leadership quote. I just wrote down a new one the other day. I can't even remember it. I think that I recently set out to memorize the Gettysburg Address, and I haven't done it yet. But there's any number of quotable lines in the Gettysburg Address. But the line that always sticks with me is the full measure of devotion.
Nice. Okay.
What Lincoln used instead of giving your life, which is
full
an
measure
amazing
of devotion.
full measure of devotion instead of giving your life. That's just like an unbelievable connection. It's not really about leadership, but as far as leaders go, Lincoln's pretty much
he's top notch for sure. Okay, what's your favorite book? You could say the Gettysburg Address, I guess.
My favorite work of nonfiction. Great question. One of the books that blew my mind is Walter Isaacson's book, The Innovators, which is, if you haven't read it, it's a 200-year history of innovation and technology from 1800 to about 2000. Mind-blowing book.
Interesting. Yeah, all those disruptive innovators that have changed society, I'm sure, and how they got there. That's probably really fascinating. Actually, I'm gonna really look into that.
From thinkers in the 1800s through Einstein and all the way up to Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, like unreal.
Nice. Okay, cool. What are you most curious about right now?
What am I most curious about right now? I am super curious about the current events of the world and the changing way we live. Right, we live in a. I think we're living through a moment where there's a lot of disagreement in the world.
Yeah,
it's kind of a chaotic moment, and that's affecting economies. It's affecting trade, obviously international relations, politics within lots of countries, and I don't think it's going to stay like this. And I'm interested in how people are going to react, because I think people are going to pull back from the chaos in a bunch of ways. I'm interested to see how that happens.
Yeah, interesting. All right, cool. Any parting words?
I just want to thank you. This has been both wonderful and really enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been awesome. I really appreciate your time coming on here. So go check out Knox Financial, guys. KNOXFINANCIAL. And if you guys want to learn more about the mastermind group or more about the Deferred Sales Trust, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We have our mastermind, so come check that out as well. David, thank you so much for coming on, man. It was absolute pleasure talking with you. Some fantastic stuff you got going on there. And thanks again, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and their professional teams struggle to find great capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy. Using a proven tax deferral strategy such as Knox Financial or the Capital Gains 1031 exchange or the Deferred Sales Trust, best way to exit highly appreciated assets tax deferred, so you create, preserve, and grow your wealth. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment, like, share, post, whatever, all that stuff, right? For all the algorithms. So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. David, thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Going.